Yes, I know Indiana is in the college football playoff semifinals after beating Alabama, but the transfer portal opens up today, and the Hoosiers have some problems they need to fix for 2026.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, and it is a Locked On College crossover of Hoosiers and the Portal. I am Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. He is Brian Smith, host of the Portal podcast. We appreciate you being here, making both of our shows one of your first listens, or your first listen, your first watch every single day, and making us the number one sports podcasting network in the world. And we appreciate you being here, making that so. Happy New Year once again. And Indiana fans, I know that you are excited after the Hoosiers take down Alabama yesterday in the Rose Bowl, a lot to a little. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers in the Portal is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app to see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. But we have a ton to get to on today's show, kind of reacting to the college football playoff second round, what's going on. Of course, the matchup with Indiana and Oregon, the Hoosiers and the Ducks in a rematch, plus the transfer portal opens up today. Our guy Brian is going to help us out a little bit, just telling us what to expect, kind of the new rules, the new calendar, just the one window, right? We're going to kind of break that down and go back to school a little bit with him. But speaking of the portal, Brian, Indiana is in that unique position. They're one of four teams now that truly has to deal with this. The idea that they're preparing for yet another college football playoff game, and they're also having to deal with the transfer portal opening up today.
This sounds worse than it probably is, but the back office staffs now are so big. There are certain people, literally, it's their job to follow the portal. And I mean that in a literal sense. For people that don't know, I don't talk about like one or two either. Multiple people, plus your assistants are well aware, obviously SIG, etc. for specific players. When an elite player gets in the portal, like Marsh from Michigan State, you're going to get a different kind of notification. You know what I mean? Like that's, automatic offer and all that kind of stuff. Hoover, who they're expected to get, the kid from TCU, the quarterback. There are those situations. But the back office staff is more about the D2, the FCS kids, because that's honestly where Indiana's made their money is G6 and FCS. I mean, they're the best at it, and they've got people working on it. Where it is different this year is Indiana didn't just make the playoff, they're advancing. Yeah. So it's going to be open for a while before they play again. Some people are probably wondering, it really won't matter that much, but Indiana's players will be able, if they go deep, to get in the portal. They got like 5-day window, 10-day window, whatever it is after, if they want to leave, etc. And they'll also have plenty of time to pick people up because the portal is the 2nd through the 16th, but that's just to get in. It is not, repeat, it is not for you to get in the portal and also select a school. That goes on for quite a while. So Indiana will be fine in that regard.
Yeah, and look, I know people, fans especially, they think that it's crazy to worry about next season when you're trying to win a national title right now. And I understand that it comes off as not appreciating where you are and not being where your feet are and things like that. I totally understand. But, man, college football is a long-term business. Nothing is guaranteed. Winning the next game this season is not guaranteed. And so Indiana, right, Indiana has to worry about this, yes, but you've got to worry about 2026 because you're losing a lot of key guys, whether it be from eligibility, the NFL draft, and believe it or not, some guys are going to transfer out. That is how that works. And so I don't want fans to be upset by this idea that we're talking about next year's team with the transfer portal opening today because Indiana has several positions that they need to go and fill. And I want to start on the offensive side of the football because I think that's the one that sticks out more to me. You're going to have to go get a quarterback because Fernando Mendoza, as much as I'm trying to speak it into existence, he is going to leave and go to the NFL draft. You also are losing your top two running backs in Roman Hemby and Kalon Black due to eligibility. You have Lee Beebe Jr., who transferred in this year from UAB. He got hurt. And then the freshman Kobe Martin, so you need another body at least there. Plus, in your receiver room, you're losing guys like Elijah Surratt. Omar Cooper could come back. Charlie Becker could come back, right? You have some of those guys. Noah Kowski, believe he can come back, if I saw that correctly. Bond and some of those guys, but you need to go get another dude at the receiver spot. And then you're losing a couple of offensive linemen, but you could bring them back. And you're hearing the word could, right? That's such a big word here because we just don't know. But those are the positions for me, Brian, for Indiana that stick out on the offensive side that the Hoosiers got to go get some big names next year.
I think they need a balance of it too. Obviously, getting a quarterback is always the main objective, but losing Coogan will be a massive thing because he's your center. Defensive tackle, you're probably going to need at least one dude, and that's going to be very pricey. And everybody's trying to get that guy, always looking for edge rushers. But my bigger concern in some ways, because Indiana's been so clutch with this, when they've needed big plays, their wide receivers get open.
Yeah.
Like, I know there's a lot of receivers in the portal, but replacing Surratt or replacing Cooper or both, man, if it ends up being both, that is a lot. Mm-hmm. So they got to be very selective because you can only spend so much on the obvious guys. They still need to be able to go out and monopolize the game of we know and you don't, because they have hit on guys that everybody else passed on, like nobody's business. So how do they blend that? I don't know, because Indiana's got more cachet now. Obviously, they're going to get more attention, and that's great, but you can't just spend money to spend money. Certain schools have done that, and they still ended up 5-7, 6-6 all over the country. Look at Florida. They've got a roster that's full of guys, and they still stunk. So that's a great example. Billy Napier couldn't coach himself out of a wet paper sack, but he had a great roster, at least in theory. It was just disjointed because they couldn't coach it. So you have to find the right guys for you, and Sig's talked about that before. I think they need to get a few elite guys, but again, the key here is finding still some of those under-the-radar guys they don't have to pay seven figures. Then you can balance your roster, take a few guys that have multiple years of eligibility, not just a bunch of one-hit mercenaries. And if you can do that, you can have another run, because like Surratt was a multi-year guy. Kind of worked out. Same thing with Aiden Fisher and several other players. If you know your background and you figure that out with your back office people and you evaluate the kids and interview them properly, you can make another run doing that. That's a lot to ask, but Indiana just had one of the greatest runs in transfer history in any sport. So there is pretty high expectations here.
And I'll remind people too that Indiana is bringing in a top 25, top 30 high school recruiting class as well. We understand that takes time, and you can't expect all of those guys to be, instant impact players, but you can put them in and expect some snaps and reps and things from them and production down the road. But I also look at the linebacker spot. You're going to lose your Aiden Fisher, your All-American linebacker Aiden Fisher. That one hurts, but Isaiah Jones, Elijah Hardy, guys that you expect to come back on this team, but you feel like you need at least one or two more to have depth. Right. And that's what you and I have talked about a little bit, is that's the difference this year from last year, is that Indiana stronger in the trenches, sure, but you have depth at almost every position now. And that's where the portal comes in play too. So don't yell, Indiana fans. It's okay. The Hoosiers can still prepare for Oregon in the national semifinal, but you still have to worry about the transfer portal that opened up today. And if you're still confused, if you're still wondering what the heck is going on, don't worry. You're probably not alone. We'll talk about the portal coming up next and what it is in terms of 2026, because it seems like it changes every year. That's because it has. We'll talk about that coming up next on this Locked On Crossover. Today's episode on this Locked On Crossover is brought to you by Hoosiers Ready. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, and life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Hoosiers Ready is designed to help you take back control. Hoosiers Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body, so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Hoosiers Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in one single mint that dissolves under your tongue so it absorbs fast. The science behind Hoosiers Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in one formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. So if you've been thinking about taking the next step, now is the time. Head to Hoosiers.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIERS.com/lockedoncollege IET.com/LockedOnCollege to get 15% off of your order for a limited time. Rougie, get ready. Feel present, feel confident, so you can feel ready. Welcome back into this Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and the Portal. He is Brian Smith, host of the Portal podcast. I'm Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers. We appreciate you being here. And again, making this your go-to spot for anything Portal, NIL, recruiting. He's your guy. Brian is. I'm your man for all things Indiana athletics. And let's talk about the Portal for a little bit, Brian. One of your favorite topics, of course, because today's the day. It's the one we've been waiting for about the transfer portal on January 2nd, if people are watching or listening after our shows come out. But January 2nd to January 16th. Gone are the days, at least for now, of two separate portal windows right after the season and after the spring. And you got to worry about guys leaving once or leaving twice and double or triple dipping and all these different things. In simple terms, Brian, how would you describe where we are in college football with the transfer portal and the calendar that we're currently operating in? How would you describe where we are and the functionality of it all?
There is no way to do the portal at a good time. I understand that. But the biggest problem is the NCAA is toothless, and there's nothing about it that works because everybody is cheating. And I mean, everybody is hardcore cheating. I'm directly involved. I know about some firsthand schools that have played each other recently were trying to steal each other's players, literally. God. So I know some of the contract offers and all the whole 9 yards. And one school can't tell on the other because they're doing the same thing with other players.
Yeah.
So that's first problem. Secondarily, the calendar, there's no way to do it because you want to have transfers between semesters. But that's when the playoff happens. So that's always going to be a disaster. So with that in mind, every December and January will be the rat race. Completely insanity. It is unfixable because of the semesters. It sucks. The only thing else that I'll add to that is you've now got to the point where if you don't win within your first year and a half, you're fired. So we have an even larger coaching carousel, assistants included, which makes it even more difficult. IU, fortunately for them, is by and large been left out of it the last cycle or so. They've spent the money to keep Haynes and some of those guys on defense, Shanahan, et cetera, those guys on offense. That matters because I spoke to an SEC coach, or excuse me, a Big Ten coach today, and I told him, I said, yeah, as you know, man, recruits and portal players pick coaches, and he goes 100%. So Indiana's at a good spot with that. But when some of these other schools are losing guys, like the guy I spoke with, he was stealing a player from another school in their recruiting class because the head coach had left that program. Recruits pick coaches, and there's a couple of portal opportunities from that school as well. So Indiana's done their due diligence, and that's why they're finding all these little guys. Like somebody at some school, you or I are like, why is Indiana taking that guy?
Yeah.
That's because their staff is together. They have one mission, and they get there. So they're unlike just about everybody else. All this stuff I just said has not impacted Indiana. They're the best in the country at it, but most schools are struggling to deal with all the change. And, of course, on top of everything else, you have the Lane Kiffin saga with the whole Ole Miss LSU thing. Trust me, that's about to go to an entirely different level. Just remember I said that.
How so?
Remember I said, oh, no, it's about to explode.
Okay. Oh, God. Yeah. That's just what college football needs, right? Is more drama like that and more Lane Kiffinisms in our lives. I mean, that's exactly what we need is more showboating that. It's just broken, though. I mean, it really is broken because, again, we were talking earlier about Indiana being in the position. You're in the Final Four, and now you're having to worry about recruiting for your future team and keeping your own guys, right? Retainment is just as important as recruiting in general, whether that's the transfer portal or in high school recruiting. Retaining is such a big factor, and that's what's kept Indiana competitive and allowed them to get this far, is keeping some of their biggest players on the interior and in the linebacker spot and things like that. Brian, did I see the other day that a Miami receiver that announced his intentions to enter the transfer portal? Folks, Miami One, Miami is playing in the national semifinal, and they had a player, I don't think he was a starter or anything, but a current player on a Final Four team announced his intention to enter the transfer portal. What the heck are we doing?
He didn't play. I know the kid personally. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but these kids are looking at all this as a business decision. They only have one objective: make the NFL.
Oh, I was
That's
going
it.
to say get paid, but
Well, that's same.
yeah, yeah.
So, and he was compensated out of high school. He was a super highly recruited. Ohio State wanted him. He just
Oh,
picked
wow.
Miami, and it just didn't work out. So he's been hurt a bunch. But you had to announce it now. I mean, you could have just called the other schools and wrote it out for another 10 days. It wouldn't have mattered because all those kids are his friends, but whatever. So anyway, he's in the portal. There you go. But he has no film. Like, he's got no catches in 2 years. So
Yeah.
it's a tough spot. But
the calendar's
was
broken is what it comes down to. The calendar is broken in college football to where, because I get it. I don't like the idea that a player on a current Final Four team is wanting to enter the portal, but the system is so broken and lopsided that if he doesn't, right, he is behind. And a lot of the positions could be filled at these other big schools, and then he could be left behind and not go a place that he wants to go or not get paid the money he wants to get paid, right?
That is the absolute correct answer. So, again, if you're a kid without film, you're just working off 2 years ago what your recruiting ranking was, and this is a top 200 kid. Okay, I get it. It's still awkward. I don't care what you say because, you're not at practice. If once you enter the portal, they're not going to want you to practice. So,
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of how that works. I could be wrong, but I don't know, look at the Charlie Weiss Jr. situation at Ole Miss. What am I saying? But I don't know what's going on there. But the point is still the same. You have so many kids getting in when their team is either getting ready to play a bowl game, just played a bowl game, in the playoff, whatever. I can't keep up. I run the Portal podcast. I would literally need to do over 100 podcasts a day. Obviously, it's comical. I don't even try to do it. I'm just going to do one big podcast a week and just go down the list and just general thoughts with a few stats, because there are over 3,000 guys in the portal. Not 100, not like 300, 3,000, over 3,000.
That's ridiculous.
That have announced their intentions. Yeah. So trying to narrow that down, I can't imagine what the men and women working in these back offices like at Indiana are being paid, but it's not enough. There's no way.
Yeah.
So I don't have a solution for it because of the semester break thing. I don't know how you could possibly fix it, but it is awful. I can imagine being the frustrated head coach all the time because you're literally never off the clock in December or January. Not one day.
Yeah. And then there's high school recruiting, there's coaching your 100%. Team, there's bowl games or playoff or whatever, right? And, there's some people too that would, I guess, poke fun at an Indiana or an Oregon, for example, the semifinal game where it's like, oh, woe is me, you're a Final Four team and complaining because you're having to do the portal and prepare to win a national championship. Wow, must be tough. But it's like, why are you getting punished for being a good team? Right? Why do the big teams get punished for winning games rather than Iowa, who could, won some meaningless bowl game and had an extra week to prepare for the portal, or a team that didn't make a bowl game at all that has even more time to prepare for the transfer portal and have all those conversations and figure out, okay, we've got 48 dudes on the roster next year and we need boom, 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 and boom. Like, why are the good teams being punished or I guess restrained compared to teams that obviously need the help? Does that make sense? Kind of what I'm saying here?
It is. It's all math. I mean, they just by irony, the teams that go 5 and like Florida State stunk this year. They got plenty of time to study the portal.
Right. And they know exactly what they need when it opens.
Yeah, it's easier. It is, but at the same time, that staff is also on the hottest of hot seats. They got to attack the portal differently with some one-hit wonders just to survive another year. They're in an end of a cycle. But that's just me talking as a guy that runs the Locked On Seminoles podcast. And Orlando knows I go down that train track a lot because it's an ugly ending at the end of that train track. It's a crash. Yeah. But Yeah, most of these schools do have an edge. The only thing I'll say about Indiana or Oregon, or, Georgia, schools like that, you're able to sell in a shorter amount of time when you say, man, we're going deep in the playoff because we're good. Come join us. We're going to do this again next year. That's a pretty darn strong pitch. That's the one thing because go ahead, go to Florida State. They've been recruiting you longer. But you know why? Because they sucked last year. That's exactly what I would say if I was at one of those other schools. Straight up. Any school that's 5-7, 6-6, we can't quite do as much right now because we're busy going to the college football finals or whatever. If that doesn't interest that kid, do you want him on your roster?
That's a good point.
So,
not to mention getting guys to the league too.
Oh, 100%. Can you imagine how many guys they're going to put in the league over the next few years? So, like Indiana's, not that they didn't put guys in the league before, but it would be like one guy, two guys a year. Now we're talking about 5+. That changes the perception of your program, and you're going to have a top 5 pick in Fernando Mendoza. That really changes the perception. Surratt's going to make a roster. I assume Cooper, he's going to leave. I don't know. Maybe he won't. That's a possibility. That's an interesting debate. Those are positions where it's exciting. It's going to get a lot of love. Fisher's a middle linebacker that's been up for a while. They should do well based on those, winning awards, constantly being in the media. All that's going to help you with the portal. And the other thing, not to just pile on for Indiana or anybody else, something else on the calendar, everybody does a junior day the last week of January, the first week of February.
Yeah. God, there's so much.
The weekend that you should be going to the national title, if Indiana makes it, is normally a junior day.
So then you have to move that around.
You got to change it. You have to change it.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't figured out, folks, the calendar is broken and the system is broken, but there's no problem is there's no one way to fix it. That's the issue. And they're not all going to agree on one way and one formula, right? And the problem is the governing body in charge can't do anything about it either. But the portal's open. It's a free for all. And good news is nobody's had any early conversations. And so the phones are ringing for the first time on January 2nd and everything will be just fine. And your Indiana Hoosiers will be active in the portal and have to make some big replacements for 2026. But we are able to still talk about games that are happening right now in this current college football season because Indiana prepares to play Oregon. We'll talk about that plus some of the other games that have been happening around the college football playoff right after this on this Locked On Crossover. Today's Locked On Crossover is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action begins. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern Time have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, like boosts, bonuses, and surprises. And the timing is literally perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts, you're getting home, you're kicking off your shoes, right? Maybe you've showered, changed some clothes, you've got some dinner, and you're sitting down to watch the NBA. Go ahead and open up that FanDuel app, and you're going to be ready to go. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, final segment on this Locked On crossover of Hoosiers and the Portal. Again, he is Brian Smith, host of the Portal Podcast. I'm Jacob Goins, host of Locked On Hoosiers. And as much fun and the craziness of the transfer portal is, we do still have football to talk about, Brian. And that includes Indiana, who is still dancing, is still playing after their win over Alabama in the Rose Bowl. And not just a win, my friend, a dominating victory. We talked about it on our live show on Locked On Hoosiers on the YouTube channel. If you missed it, go and check that out. But now that we've had a little bit of time to sit on this and you look at that game compared to the other results that we've seen so far, I mean, this is one of the more dominating victories we've seen in the college football playoff history, right? I mean, a 35-point beatdown against the Crimson Tide in the Rose Bowl. Talk to me, my man.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the stats. Stat Broadcast had Indiana holding Bama to 193 yards, 1.4 yards per carry. I mean, just throttled them. And like Simpson wasn't like bad in terms of, he just didn't have anywhere to go in terms of yardage. Anything down the field, which they were good at, they took it away. They out-coached them, they out-executed them. And like Bama's secondary is really good. It legitimately is. But Mendoza was 14-16. That is beyond that.
Yeah.
That is insane. Those are numbers that are borderline like you would see from like a Navy or Army quarterback in terms of attempts. A little more, but not much. And he only threw for 192 yards, but they were so efficient. On third down, they were 9 out of 14. Nobody ever goes 9 out of 14 against Alabama. Nobody does that against mid-level SEC defenses. Alabama's D is legit. They got several NFL guys. Indiana averaged 6.2 yards per play. Bama just 3.9. Bama was 3 for 11 on third down. Like they didn't even try to go for it on 4th and 1. Remember that play in the first half? Like every single big play was made by the Hoosiers. Like Bama literally didn't make a big play in the game.
Their only one big play was the Ty Simpson run on a scramble, broken down play. That's when he got hit and fumbled the football. Turns out he fractured his ribs on that play, and Indiana was able to do something with it. You're right. I mean, Indiana, and this wasn't one of those situations, too, where Indiana just had Alabama's number. Crimson Tide just weren't ready for the storm. No, this was one team that was clearly better than the other. And Indiana showed that in all areas of the game. Couple of beautiful throws, right, from Fernando Mendoza. The one to Charlie Becker was unbelievable over the middle of the end zone, and he just peeked the football. I mean, that was unbelievable. Beautiful throw to Surratt, too. You knew he was going to get his. Had a touchdown pass to Omar Cooper, I believe, as well, the 1-yarder down inside the red zone. And so while that game was fun, it was awesome, and Indiana prepares to play Oregon. We'll talk about that in a moment. I mean, some of the playoff games have been blowouts. Others have been pretty good. I mean, how about Miami taking down Ohio State and not just beating them by 10 on the scoreboard? I know it was closer than that. It felt like in the game itself, but Miami taking down Ohio State and the Oregon dominance over Texas Tech, I mean, sets up for a really, really good Peach Bowl in Atlanta.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because Oregon is one of those massive teams. It's from the tree of Saban and Kirby Smart, big D linemen. They're not great at rushing the passer, but they know how to do enough to be disruptive, and their secondary's got some guys. Thieneman in the back.
Yeah.
And they got the young corner Finney, et cetera, that's going to be a 3-and-out guy. They're going to be good. My question is, like, and I know Tech is a really good defense. They do. They're legit. They couldn't run the ball at all. Indiana, I don't think, has as good a run defense as Tech, but it's not far from it. If they're that pedestrian running the ball, they're not beating Indiana. Mendoza will make enough plays, kind of like the last game. I think Indiana's about 10 points better than Oregon, kind of like they were 30-20 last game.
Yeah.
And Oregon's offensive line, for people that don't know, at the end of the year, they were really, really, really banged up, like both tackles out. They may be playing now, but I can tell you firsthand, this is how much, for those of you watching this on YouTube, that college coaches are accurate with their injury reports at the end of the year. 0 is the number for those of you listening on audio.
No, they don't lie, Brian. No.
There was a player that was in the playoffs already that's been eliminated, has been injured since about week 3, that not one time was on the injury report for what he was injured with. That is the common theme here. And based on how they played against Tech, I have a feeling there's a few guys up front for Oregon that are not even in the stratosphere where they want them to be. Against Indiana, that's a problem. Because Indiana's linebackers as a group, in my opinion, flow to the football and balance each other in terms of run gap fits better than any team in the country. They're not necessarily as aggressive as Tech. They're just the most consistent. Like Tech probably does the best penetration. Indiana it's 2nd and 8 all day. Mm-hmm. They're the most annoying team on the block. So unless Oregon figures out why they were so again, Tech is really good. But unless they fix that, and I mean really fix it, they got to run for $150 to beat Indiana. Like, they ran the ball pretty good against the Hoosiers last time, but they screwed it up. They play like they did in this last game, they could get beat 2 or 3 touchdowns because it'll be 3rd and 8 all day. And we all know that Indiana secondary, they tend to do very well in those circumstances.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I called them an opportunistic defense going into the Alabama game. And while they don't believe they had a pick in that game, they did have the fumble recovery that was forced by Pons on the big hit. I'll leave you with this, right? Indiana getting to the quarterback defensively had 3 sacks against Alabama, right? They had 5 against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. But the game against Alabama is without Stephen Daly, who's out for the year, who was 3rd in the country in tackles for loss. Alabama, on the other hand, got to Fernando Mendoza 3 times. But correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, I believe 2 of those were on the opening drive. After that, he got sacked just 1 time. Fernando Mendoza did. So I trust Indiana in the trenches. This is a different team. It's a new team. It's completely different from a year ago. Talking about the portal today, that's what happened. You went and got dudes in the portal. You made your guys better as well, and you built the trenches on both sides of the football. So the playoffs have been good so far. And Indiana and Oregon in a rematch for the Peach Bowl should be a lot of fun. We'll talk so much more about this next week as we get closer. They play on Friday. The first game on Thursday. Hoosiers and Ducks play on Friday in another rematch, I believe the 4th now we've seen in the college football playoff. So it should be a lot of fun, along with all things in the transfer portal, which you can follow with Brian Smith, host of the Portal Podcast. You can follow all things Indiana football and basketball with me, Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers, show coming up on Sunday night. That is on the 4th, I believe, when the Hoosiers take on Washington. So all that will be on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, check out Brian Smith, host of the Portal Podcast. We're back next time, fans. So until then, stay safe, and we will talk to you later.